You're listening to AI PRISM from Seoul Economic Daily.
It's Saturday, May 16. I'd like to share some thoughts about early career. Imagine the government basically handing you the keys to capture the massive upside of Korea's tech boom while, actively shielding you from the worst losses.
Yeah, it sounds almost too good to be true, right? Until you actually read the fine print.
Exactly. So today we're looking at two sides of the same coin. First, this crazy new way to invest your savings into the tech sector. And second, how the actual workers building that tech are threatening a historic strike just to get their fair share of those exact profits.
It really is a fascinating contrast. So looking at the investment side first, on May 22, the government is launching the National Participation Growth Fund. They're funneling 600 billion won, which is around $429 million, into advanced tech.
Right, and it operates as a fund of funds, right?
Yeah.
So instead of you trying to pick individual winning stocks, your money goes into a master pool.
Exactly. And then that master pool disperses the capital across multiple smaller sub-funds. They target 12 high-tech sectors like AI and biotech. It aggressively spreads out the risks, so you aren't just betting on one horse.
Okay, but the perks they are throwing at salaried workers to get them on board are just massive. Like, you can claim an income tax deduction of up to 18 million won.
Wow, yeah.
Which is roughly $12,900. And any dividend income gets taxed at a flat 9%. But the wildest part is the safety net, right?
Oh, absolutely. The government is covering up to 20% of your losses.
Wait, really? 20%?
Yeah, backed by a public pool of 120 billion won, or about $85.7 million. You almost never see loss protection like that in normal retail investing.
Right. It's clearly designed to lower the barrier to entry for everyday investors, people who usually shy away from the volatility of those high-growth sectors.
Exactly. But as you mentioned, there's a severe catch.
Yes.
0 midterm redemptions.
The lockup. Your money is locked tight for 5 years. I like to think of it as a financial escape room. Like, you get all these brilliant tax clues, but you physically cannot leave until 2031.
That is a perfect way to put it. Structurally, illiquidity is a feature here, not a bug. Deep tech and venture capital, they need a long, stable runway to mature. You can't fund a 5-year AI project if the capital might just flee next month during a market panic.
Right. I get the macro logic. But is that really practical for early career earners? People who might suddenly need cash?
Well, they actually thought of that. Because of the strict lockup, they implemented a priority allocation window. For the first 2 weeks, sales are exclusively reserved for individuals earning under 50 million won.
Which is roughly $35,700 a year.
Right. So the goal is to give early career earners first dibs on that safety net. But you have to seriously budget for that illiquidity. I mean, you cannot put your housing deposit in this fund.
Definitely not. So the government is engineering ways for everyday folks to capture broader tech profits. But inside those very companies, the people generating the profits are furious about how the spoils are divided.
Yeah. Which brings us to the looming 18-day Samsung electronics strike, set to start May 21.
Right, and this dispute centers on something called OPI, or excess profit bonus, right, where business units get rewarded for beating internal targets.
Exactly. But the internal friction is intense right now because the payouts are just wildly skewed. Samsung's memory unit reportedly got a 300% bonus.
That's 300%.
Yeah. Well, the foundry unit received just 100%. So the union wants this 3-to-1 gap fixed. They're demanding a predictable, math-based formula.
And they want to remove the 10% operating profit ceiling, right? Why is that ceiling such a big deal?
Well, if a company has an exponential boom year, capping the bonus pool at 10% means the workers don't fully share in that massive windfall. Plus, management can kind of manipulate that operating profit number.
Oh, like front-loading massive R&D expenses to shrink the on-paper profit?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which legally shrinks the bonus pool.
Yeah.
So the workers want that loophole closed entirely.
And the union has a massive leverage here. I mean, semiconductor manufacturing requires 247 operation. Shutting down those lines creates an immediate supply chain crisis.
Yeah, a massive one. Which is why the government is bringing up the Essential Operations Agreement. It's a labor law concept where the government can legally force critical infrastructure to keep running.
Wow, so they're threatening an emergency adjustment just to block a total shutdown.
Exactly. But, even if you don't work at Samsung, you should care about this. This is ground zero for the whole industry.
Because historically, Korean tech companies use discretionary bonuses to maintain cash flow flexibility, right?
Right. If Samsung's union forces a transparent, uncapped formula, it removes that flexibility. It sets a hard precedent that every other tech firm will be pressured to adopt.
Which leaves us with a really interesting final thought. If transparent, standardized bonuses become the norm at a giant like Samsung, how might that force your own company to restructure its compensation? It could completely upend things. If big players suddenly offer corporate stability and transparent upside, smaller startups might lose their most powerful weapon for recruiting talent. That's today's AI PRISM. Early career. This episode was produced with AI assistance based on Seoul Economic daily reporting and reviewed by a human editor. AI PRISM is a IFRA award-winning series. We'll be back tomorrow.
You've been listening to AI PRISM from Seoul Economic Daily.